Hey climbers, and welcome to weekly workout number 5. In the session today, we're going to be focusing on 2 primary sessions, our hip strength and mobility session to get started, and then we're going to jump on the wall and do boulder pyramids to work on our work capacity. So to begin the session, we're going to start with a zone 2 cardio warm-up as normal, and then we'll do our flow yoga to open up our ranges of motion for the day. And then for our pre-climb training, we're going to do 2 sections. First is going to be our hip strength mobility warm-up to open up our ranges of motion that will then train in our end range. So for our end range training for our hips, we're going to do a couple different things. First and foremost is going to be our split front folds, and then we'll do an elevated foot lunge, also called an ATG split squat. And then we'll do things to help with our hip flexor strength and our core compression, things like a press L-sit hold or a pike leg lift hold. After that, we'll have our bouldering pyramid session. This is going to be a session that's going to help us boost our work capacity. Basically, we're going to keep the intensity a little bit lower and increase our volume. So this might be the most volume that we've seen so far in any of our sessions, but this organization will help us make sure that the intensity and the volume is balanced in a way where we have a really productive session. After that, we'll do some foam rolling and then jump into our aerobic cool down. So let's go ahead and jump into the first portion of this workout. Okay, next up is our hip strength and mobility warm-up, and then we'll jump into the main stimulus for our hip strength and mobility session. Okay, next up we have a twisting stiff leg deadlift, which we haven't done together before, so let me go ahead and walk you through it. The idea here is we're going to take a closer stance rather than maybe our traditional or something a little bit wider. This is going to help us just get a little bit more stretch as we lean and stay a little bit more balanced. What we're going to do is we're going to reach down towards the floor with straight legs, twisting off to one side to really lean into the outside of that hip that we're stretching and loading. I'm going to do this with a kettlebell to add just a little bit of load and intensity here because my body weight is not enough to get me a nice deep stretch there. So just a tiny bit of load. Again, we're not going for strength training yet, just a little bit of load to help us into that deeper range of motion. Okay, next up is going to be our hip strength and mobility workout. So this is going to be a higher RPE, and we're going to be doing some loaded stretching. The first one that we're going to talk about is our split front fold. So this is going to be a side split, the east-west direction rather than north-south direction. So east-west here. And one thing that we want to think about is basically rotating our pelvis forward and pulling our tailbone back. This is going to help us create space in our hip socket for us to basically get down into. So this exercise is going to be great for training the muscles on the insides of our legs, and then we're going to flex our upper body down into about a parallel to the floor position and then flex back up. So let's go ahead and try a few of these. Quick pro tip for these, it can be really advantageous to just do a little bit of light walking around in between these sets as you're resting. This is going to help aid just a little bit of hydration and circulation through that tissue that we're really stressing. Okay, next up is going to be our elevated foot lunge or an ETG split squat. Same thing here. So we're going to start with our foot high up off this box, and this is going to allow us into a deeper range of motion. Ultimately, the best progression of this would be getting your foot down to the floor and then being able to stretch your other leg completely back into this range. But for me, I can't do that right now. So a regression of this is going to be pulling this box up. This is going to help me get into that deeper range where I wouldn't be able to do this if I was just going off the floor to start. So a couple things that we're thinking about here, first and foremost, is going to be the foot that we're standing on that's up on the box needs to externally rotate. That's basically our hip driving our knee out slightly to create space for our hip socket for us to sit down into all these muscles underneath our leg. So when we put our foot up on this box, we want to think about slightly externally rotating at the hip to create space for us to get into. Next up, we want to keep a really tall chest here and do that same thing with our pelvis that we did before in the previous exercise to create some more space for us to sit into. Okay, last thing to do for our hips, since we already hit kind of our left and right orientation and our forwards and backwards orientation with the last two exercises, now it's time to do kind of our up and down orientation. This is going to focus a little bit more on our hip flexor strength and our ability to compress our core. So we're going to do a pike leg lift hold as our easier progression, or we're just going to do a pressing L-sit hold. Time to jump on the wall to do some bouldering. As a reminder, today we're going to be focusing on improving our work capacity on the wall using a method called boulder pyramids. These pyramids are going to allow us to balance our volume and intensity depending on which of the two methods that we pick. So the two methods to talk about today are going to be a progressive and a regressive method. The progressive method is going to be better for more experienced climbers to help them get in a nice balance of volume and intensity, whereas the regressive method is going to be better for new climbers who have limited work capacity and can only handle a tiny bit of intensity, but still want to improve by getting some additional volume in. So for the progressive method, I'm going to be doing 1 V1, then 2 V2s, 3 V3s, and so on up to V5. For my 5 V5s today, I'm actually going to be doing them on the TB2, and then I might work back down 4 V4s after that, then 3 V3s back on the commercial set, but we'll see depending on how much time we have today. For the newer climbers, the regressive method is going to be 5 V1 boulders, then 4 V2 boulders, then 3 V3 boulders, 2 V4 boulders, and then 1 V5 boulder, and then you can work back up the other way. So let's go ahead and jump on the wall. Okay, that's it for our bouldering work capacity session today. Now it's time to do a little bit of foam rolling and an aerobic cool down before we head out of here. That's it for weekly workout number 5. Just as a quick recap, we started the session off today doing hip strength and mobility training. This is going to be a key component for us to train if we want to learn how to use our lower body to generate momentum on the wall. After that, we jumped onto some boulders to do a work capacity session. Today, we focused on boulder pyramids, where we had 2 methods to pick from, a progressive method and a regressive method. Both were ways for us to balance our volume and our intensity in a way where it's going to help us become better climbers depending on our current level of ability. So if you're enjoying workouts like this and you want more in the future, be sure to check out my school community, where I'll be releasing 3 new weekly workouts every week. I hope to see you there.